Chiefs Kingdom, welcome in to the latest episode, the latest edition of the AP Film Room YouTube show. I'm about to say podcast, but we're to the people of the visual audio, visual medium. Caleb, that was a very bumpy intro, but not going to be as bumpy of a show. I'm telling you, it's free agency time. Caleb, I'm Ron Kopp Jr., the lead analyst at the site. Caleb James with me, as always. We are missing Nate today, unfortunately, on the show, but you know what we do here. If you're tuning in, we break down the film of whatever we want to. Right, in season it was Chiefs. Draft time, which has been kind of this last month. We've been looking at prospects, but Caleb, it is free agency, and it's been exciting, man. For the most part, not too exciting. I guess the Chiefs could do a little more, but we'll see how it goes. It's only a Wednesday night as we sit here right now, but we're going to be looking at two of the guys they've signed so far. You're going to be looking at Juwan Taylor, the offensive tackle. I'm going to be looking at Charles Omenihu, the pass rusher. But first of all, just let me get your feelings on how free agency is going so far. Are you feeling good about kind of where they're positioning themselves so far?
Yeah, because they really have gone out and addressed two things I think we all wish they would have addressed, pass protection, at the tackle position and pass rush along the defensive line. And they've gone out and they've signed Juwan Taylor, pretty underrated signing, honestly. He's a guy that was kind of flying under the radar. And then they went out and they go get Charles Omenihu. He's an interesting prospect. He's been around for quite a while, but he's still only 25 years old, and he's maybe just now starting to hit his stride for what he does well. So, yeah, I know we got a lot of things lined up here in this episode, though, especially just because you got to have those cornerstone, the cornerstone defensive and offensive linemen to really be able to compete for championships.
Yeah, and you mentioned it with the age. Both of them are ripe age. And that's what I like about Veach for the most part. He really, for the guys he has signed or has gone after in the offseason to be starters and to be solid pieces. They're usually prime age, right? Justin Reed last year, was a 25, 26-year-old, Orlando Brown Jr. when he traded for him. It's not like he's trading for these old guys, taking risks on has-beens. So that is kind of the thing I like about Veach. He's looking for ascending players. So, and let's talk about an ascending player. Let's get into it, man. I am excited about Juwan Taylor, and you're gonna Nate's actually the one that broke him down initially for the site, but you got some cool stuff kind of looking at him compared directly to Orlando Brown Jr. Last year, and kind of the different things that they could offer. So if you want to plug that at all, go ahead. But besides that, just break down Juwan Taylor for us.
Yeah, let's get into it. I'm working on I'm working on like a little series for him, and he's your right tackle, number 75 over here. And kind of what I'm working on from the writing perspective, just to give you guys a little sneak peek, I want to look at how him and Orlando and Wiley kind of compare, how they contrast. Beautiful thing about it is the AFC West and AFC South matched up this year. That means we have a lot of games versus common opponents. He played 2 games versus the Chargers. The Chiefs played 2 games versus the Chargers. That's kind of an odd coincidence. I don't think it's just made up that he's played so well like he, and I'm getting ready to show you. And we'll just start it out. This is just a nasty play by him. Every good offensive lineman, you want to have some sort of a mean streak. Throws that guy down here. We'll get into the next clip. And, you see Bosa out there. I don't think it's a coincidence that he's played so well against Joey Bosa and Max Crosby and Khalil Mack and all these other elite edge rushers who the Chiefs see multiple times a year. But this is late in the game, and you see instantly, you see how quick he is out of his stance into this. His footwork is as smooth as it comes. He's quick. He is 6'5". They list him at 310. I kind of think he might be a little lighter. He's definitely a more mobile tackle, but you see the drive and catch. You see how he's got that good kind of inside lean on the inside foot there. He's kind of, pushing off of it and gliding with the outside foot, and it's really helping him. And then he's, times his punch up here on Bosa. Bosa's going to try to react, but really he extends out and his hands are tight and he's got Bosa, just in a good spot to try to win. Bosa's trying to fight around it, but then you see the feet again. He's starting to sink his hips, anchors down. And if you caught that at the end there, one of the reasons I like him, he gets a little nasty now. He was having some fun with Bosa. Bosa was frustrated in the playoff game, so he gives him a little tug there and gets him on the ground to end the play. Just one of those little frustrating plays that can make a defensive lineman take his helmet off and throw it down multiple times and blame the referees for imaginary false starts. And here he is going against Crosby. And Crosby just said, well, I'm not quicker than you, so I'm going to have to beat you with power. You know, we've seen Crosby beat Wiley quite a few times, just being more athletic around the edge. Really, he couldn't do that, so he's just tried to outpower him. And Crosby's a big dude. You know, he's a big defensive end. He's a big, strong guy. But watch this here, because initially Taylor gets bull rushed, but look at the hands. He's reset his hands. He's got his hands back underneath, and you see how close his feet are to the ground. He doesn't take big steps, kind of like Orlando Brown did. He gets in awkward spots. He keeps his feet tight on the ground, and he's going to pop his anchor. And what I mean by pop his anchor, he's going to pop his feet back and sink his hips at the exact same time. He gets his hands in, and now he's basically, you know, nose to nose with Crosby. He's walling him off, and he gets a good finish to push on the play. This is some high-level stuff that even a lot of tackles in the NFL cannot do. Look how feet are tight on the ground, close on the ground. That's what you want. You don't want these big giant steps. He's so quick. He can cut on a dime. He's really good at using guys' momentum against him here. Crosby gets upfield. He wants to rush, but look at this. He gets a nice tight punch on after a really good pass set. Just wash Crosby up the field. And, you know, you see a lot of defensive linemen go against him. They kind of slip. He takes their angles and uses them against them. A tight pass set, and then he's getting ready to come over. Crosby's got two hands out, and, you know, he just gets to the side. He just gets to the outside, but he's pushing him up the field. These plays, you know, this pass he's not going to get to.
Yeah, and this is the thing about Jawaan Taylor, and I'll just cut in here is that, you know, we talk about how, you know, Andy Reid likes his offensive tackles to be, you know, very long armed. You know, there's kind of this cutoff, right? In the draft, we talk about, and all teams have a cutoff, but Andy Reid even seems to have a higher standard to offensive tackles with arm length. Juwan Taylor has some of the longest arms there were in the combine. Back when, he's the prototype, and the thing is, when you mirror that, Orlando Brown Jr. had that, right? He had some of that, but when you pair that with the footwork that you're showing right now and kind of that pass setting, kind of just the almost, yeah. I mean, it's just like a kind of he's kind of been learning. It's kind of all coming together for him, right? He's been a 4-year starter. Like, just take some time to kind of come together. So, I just think it's kind of the best of both worlds, where he has that length that Andy Reid values, but he may have more of the pass footwork that maybe some guys with that arm length may not have, right?
Yeah, definitely. And look, he's beat right now. He should not win this rep. He has got Bosa in his chest. He's getting out leveraged and out everything. But the recovery, he's elite at recovery. Just being able to go. It's kind of like you think about just like the athletic movement it takes to be able to recover from something like this. It's impressive. It involves a lot of explosion through the ankles, knees, and hips, a lot of core strength. But he does. And here's something else here. You can see that hand. He's got the hand on the hip. He's a real big hip grabber. Not a lot of guys do that anymore, but it's something that he incorporated into his game. And really, what makes me excited for him is he's going to get a chance to work with Andy Heck, who is a master of teaching his guys how to win hand fights. And he's already somewhat advanced. You see him going for the hip there. Obviously, this is an awesome recovery right there versus DeMarcus Lawrence. He came in with a big pass. He came in with a big bull rush, and you can just even see he's covered up a little bit, but you can see how he recovers, pops, and re-anchors and locks. And, he's not a great run blocker. That's kind of weird. For as good as he's in pass protection, not the greatest run blocker. My arrow's pointing him out right there. But this is, he does have the movement and athleticism to be good. He gets the pancake there at the very top of the screen. Pretty nice block at the second level. He has all the tools and capability to be a guy that can excel in like the Andy Reid screen game, outside zone,
right.
Traditional counter, just tackle wrap, these plays where tackles have to move. Just needs to work on consistency with angles.
Right. So the ultimate question, though, we talk about Juwan Taylor, this guy that just got $60 million guaranteed from, the Chiefs, as a guy that has played right tackle for 4 years, played right tackle in college, did play only two starts at left tackle, had to the second to last year he was there at Florida. Right tackle his entire career, Caleb. Are you buying, first of all, that he's going to be the left tackle? And do you feel good about that? Because I'm someone that has the opinion that I'd like him to stay at right tackle as much as possible. But what's your meter on, how big of a deal is it, whether or not he plays right or left tackle? Either way, we have a good tackle, right?
Yeah, so I think it's a really good bluff by the Chiefs to say, well, he's going to be our left tackle or right tackle. The reason it just gives them flexibility. Before it kind of felt like maybe in the draft they'd be pigeonholed into taking a tackle or trading up for one. Now that kind of frees up their options, they've been doing a really nice job of incorporating Lucas Niang's name out there to people in the media. I don't know if maybe that's another little smoke screen also, or they think he's going to be able to fully recover. But I do think this, though, if it does come down to him playing left tackle, his experience playing in an offense that requires like actually passing the football, almost even though he was a right tackle, that makes me more confident with his ability than almost it did sometimes with Orlando Brown coming over from playing in an offense where, yes, he did start like half a season at left tackle, but it was for an offense that does nothing similar to the Chiefs. The Doug Peterson, Andy Reid connection is there. You've
Right.
seen him take on these elite level pass rushers. Bosa lines up on both sides. Crosby usually only primary lines up on the right side, but
Right.
still, you see these different things and you think, who are these guys the Chiefs have to deal with all year long? It's the teams in their division. I don't think it's a coincidence that he looked really good against those teams.
But I mean, there's another good point though, is that in the AFC West specifically, you're seeing a good edge rusher on both sides of the ball, and Max Crosby, you're right, is a primary right, on the right side. Hey, I will say Wiley, had some good games against him. Hey, I mean, we've had some answers for him, and a lot of that is schematic, right? A lot of that is Andy Reid helping him schematically. But at the same time, how big of a deal is it? Like, can we just say, hey, look, Jawaan Taylor, highly paid right tackle, that's just as important as left tackle. I don't know. That's how I feel, man. And there's you just mentioned it with Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack. Hey, those guys aren't going anywhere. You see those dead cap hits. Those guys are not going anywhere. And yeah, you have both of them. And so that's where I feel like I just feel like, but here's the thing. And so you mentioned Niang's name. How much confidence do you have that he could, if things don't break the right way, he has to be the right tackle next year? I mean, would you actually feel good about that, or is that just like, is that almost like worst case scenario for me? Because for me, that almost might be.
Yeah, I mean, it could be worse. I mean, you could be looking at Prince Tega or Darian Kennard there. I know a lot of people have been throwing the Kennard name around. He's going to be a guard at some point in his career. I don't think,
Yeah.
but anyway, back over there to Niang though. Good film, but the one thing that you really have to have out of an NFL offensive lineman is they got to be able to play every game. He's just missed so much time even before the critical injury. I think he had like a rib injury or some other injury. He just,
Yeah, he had a few. Yeah.
just the nagging injuries, that doesn't really give you confidence, especially since for big guys, injuries cause more injuries to occur as time goes along with it being a physical game. I think at some point they're going to draft another tackle. I think it's going to turn into some type of it's probably going to turn into a competition again, kind of like how it's been in the past. Even with Wiley starting every game, they throw a lot of bodies at right tackle and see what sticks. But just having a guy that can go out there, play one-on-one consistently versus good opponents, that is going to be a lot better than what the Chiefs have had, more than once here on both tackle spots over the course of the last season. Because to be honest, those guys, Brown and Wiley, they got helped out quite a bit, with chip blocks, with just the scheme and everything like that.
Oh yeah. No, there's no doubt about it. And that's the thing. I mean, against a good passer, sometimes, you just have to chip help no matter what, right? And so, it's because you think about Eric Fisher, Mitchell Schwartz back in the day. I mean, those are two, pillars of your offense. But the 49, Fisher still had a time against the Niners in the Super Bowl, and that's the thing. I mean, you're always gonna have to account for that in some capacity, but that's where I don't know if you keep Juwan Taylor at right tackle where he's already comfortable, already very good. You don't have to project. You're projecting him at left tackle. You don't have to project him at right tackle. And I'm telling you, Brett Veach, if you're watching, take that swing, go up and get your guy. Hey, it doesn't have to be my guy. It doesn't have to be Anton Harrison, but go get your guy, Brett Veach. Go get the guy you want to be left tackle for the Chiefs in the future. Because I really feel like this is a golden opportunity, to solidify the line and take advantage of that rookie deal left tackle while you still have Jawaan Taylor on the right tackle deal. Hey, by the time that deal's up, then you have to pay your left tackle, right? So that's where the beauty of it comes in. So, all right, we've talked enough Juwan Taylor. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball because that is who I am talking about. I'm talking about Charles Omenihu, the former San Francisco 49ers pass rusher. And I say pass rusher because, hey, he is a defensive end, right? He was playing defensive end for them, in their base packages just in general. That's because he is that size, right? He's 6'5", 280, at the combine is what he came in at. And we're going to get into that because I don't think he looks quite 280. Maybe he's just so long that he's so thin, but I don't think he plays quite at the 280 size that he's listed at. But 36-inch arms, huge arms, huge wingspan, and a great vertical at the combine too. So what he did for the Niners really was he wasn't their starter on early downs again, but he did come in on pass downs. When it was any third down, any obvious pass down situation, he was in, and he had a move that he went to quite a bit, and it worked. And he, I was calling this a chop, and the more I look at it, it is kind of more of a swipe, Caleb. I kind of want your maybe take on it. Would you call that more of a swipe than a chop? Because I feel like he is, chop, you're chopping down, but swipe is, he is kind of swiping more to the side. Either way, he's being violent with his hands. What do you think? I just want your take.
I think it's more of a hand swipe. Honestly, it kind of, I don't know, I'm gonna get killed for this, but it kind of looks like how Chris Jones beats a lot of slow guards sometime. He gets wide.
I let you take my thunder.
Sorry. Well,
I asked you, I set you up.
It's what Chris Jones does. He's the hand swipe guy, and now I guess we got two hand swipe guys. But yeah, I'd go with more of a swipe. I think a chop would be more of just like an action. It'd be looking like more of a stab, or like you're like pressing down with a hammer almost.
Right. Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah. I was, I was getting excited with my name calling there, but swipe either way, he was doing it very well. And that's really what was his primary move. And that's the thing. They were putting him inside on guards, right? They're putting him in the Mike Dana role where, Eric Armstead a lot of the times was that other guy, right? He's probably going to get the center help a lot of the time. He's a really good player, really good inside rusher. But that's where he's going to take advantage of that 1v1 versus the guard. So he swipes, beats the rookie Zion Johnson here. And then he just finishes the play, right? Make sure he extends out, make sure the ball doesn't get out, right? He makes, all that. This play doesn't finish all the way, obviously, because he gets kind of, he gets triple teamed here, right? He gets the center attention, and the left tackle comes in to get him. So he's trying to pick up the loop, but he sets that up, and then he has a nasty rip through too that he just sets up because he has a good first step, right? He's explosive off the ball especially for his size. He is an edge rusher, right? And he plays like an edge rusher on the inside, but again, he's kind of setting up, right? Like he's about to do maybe his vintage hand swipe, get past, but then he rips through inside. He's going to do it here again. This time he's going to finish with the sack. And it's just nasty, right? He's just getting through that very quickly. And he has violent hands. I got clips of him coming off the edge because, again, he is an edge rusher, and that's what he's going to do in Kansas City. Maybe on certain pass rush downs, he's obviously going to get, Spags is going to get creative. But he is going to be a true defensive end. He might have to start at defensive end depending on what happens, right? Karlaftis and Omenahu might be the starters as we get, to 2023. But here's the swipe again, right? You're right. This is definitely a swipe. The swipe again around the outside. Beating the right tackle, just kind of easy. And obviously, Mariota has to back up because of the interior pressure, but, you can just see him. And I like this play, it doesn't result in a sack, but look at the balance kind of coming through, not going to the ground, kind of being able to stay up. And obviously he goes to the ground at the very end, but that's just because he was reaching and trying to grab an ankle. He knew he had no chance to, kind of recover, in that position. But just kind of that balance to kind of, bend around the edge and come up. He has that juice, right? He has that bendy, you kind of just see it. You kind of see it when, when you see it, right? That kind of bendy, juice, for an edge rusher.
Oh, yeah.
To have that at 280 it is impressive, right? And look at the hand fighting here, right? He sets up and then obviously here's he swiping down and getting under his shoulder, ripping through. And, obviously, he gets a hand on the sack. He's not the guy who gets the sack. But again, it's just, he can come off the edge. I mean, he was doing it, a little bit with them, just not, enough. He was, a lot of times he was coming, on the inside when it was a pass down. He was more of a backup when it came to the early downs.
Yeah, that pass rush rep versus Seattle was pretty awesome. The thing I liked about that, I don't know, he got like, can you run that back if possible?
I can, absolutely.
Because what I liked about it, he's going against Charles Cross, and Charles Cross is a rookie tackle. I think he's gonna do like an Andrew Thomas type deal. He's gonna be the guy. He comes back, and after his rookie year, he's gonna have like a big sophomore year, and he's just gonna build himself up. What I like here is he gets the hands inside, and then you see the flexibility to go. He's like acting like he was gonna just run like a straight power move, and then he just kind of like flexes out of there like that. Like he gets the hands inside and stuns Cross to like the point where he's like waiting for the waiting for the power, waiting for the bull rush, and then he gets outside. That takes a lot of athleticism. That's not an easy play to pull off. I'm sure he wishes he would have finished the play, but he still made his impact on the play. He forced the quarterback out of the pocket.
No, I'm glad you brought that up because, yeah, you're right. You could say this was almost an impressive play if he was just maybe like speed rushing, right? But you're right. He actually, it's not an initial speed rush. He sets it up and then tries to go around, and yeah, that's what I mean. He just has that natural dip that when again, it when you see it. The hand fighting, he seems pretty, cognizant of how to do it. But what I want to show you here is his bull rushes, because I do think at 280, what he's listed at, again, I'll show you, we're going to get to it. I really feel like sometimes he looks a little lighter than that. He can generate power though, right? And it's because he maybe has that bend, that speed to maybe threaten around the outside. But, right here again, he's going to kind of set him up, and then he's just going to boom, long arm him, and just drive, right? Look at the leg drive on him, putting Colton Miller back into Jarrett Stidham's lap. Obviously the ball gets out, but he does have that. And this is where you see the pop, right? He has a little runway to kind of get going, and then he just, blows the guard up. This is just a little unfair. He's lined up on the outside, has that runway, right? Kind of the 2-3 steps together. That's what I mean. Obviously has some power, some pop, and he's a bigger dude. You'll see here kind of just some fighting through, which I liked, right? He's just going to, again, hand fighting through. He's gonna get good hands, and that's the thing. One thing I should mention is I do think he plays with really good leverage for his size. He's a pretty tall dude, but he comes out with good hands. He's never super high. I mean, here you can argue he got high, but he was just trying to go for the batted pass. Seeing that Geno Smith, was going for the ball there. So I do think he plays with good leverage. He comes out with good leverage constantly, like good hand placement. But also I mentioned those long arms. That's the thing. He made a couple game-changing plays because of those long arms, and I think Spags is going to drool over this. He causes a fumble here just by running around the outside, again, athletic for that inside rusher, looping around, comes from the backside A gap all the way around the edge, forces the fumble. This isn't a playoff game. Anyone who watched football remembers this turned the game, and Seattle was still kind of in that game at that point. And then this was earlier in the season against the Chargers. Forces a bad throw because he just fights, right? And actually, I like this rep because he doesn't win initially with the swipe, right? Because there's kind of no space. Just fights back through inside, beats the guard, and uses those long arms, right? Any shorter of arms, he may not even tip that, right? So again, Omenahu, someone that has the length to get excited about, especially if you're Steve Spagnuolo, someone that loves to have that. But here's some of his run D clips, and these are actually good run D clips. But Caleb, just as you've been kind of watching him, just as you've been seeing him, does 280 seem like an accurate measurement for him? I just want your opinion.
He might have been eating a lot at the combine or whenever they weighed him in. I think he could be like.
It's been 4 years. It's been 4 years, right?
I don't really think he's 280 unless he's just carrying it very well. And he is like 6'5". He could be just carrying it very well,
right?
But he
looks
very
long.
He looks like he's moving more like a 265 kind of guy, 260 kind of guy out there. Which you see guys like that. Maybe he is a kind of in that weight range where you do like those guys that can play. A little inside D line, a little outside D line. He's kind of a tweener in that regard, where he'll never be like a full-time starter at either spot, but he's like they're good at picking their spots with him. Some good run. He's doing a good job to disrupt the run game here too, though. He's not just a total liability.
Yeah, let me play this clip back because I love how he beats the kick out block here. Gets inside of it, and obviously Charvarius Ward makes this play. It's over, but he's trying to get kicked out here, and he just says, he just
Wrong.
slides right past it and squares back up, right? That's what I like about it. He squares back up to the
Yeah,
line of scrimmage after squeezing by it.
hits him with the wrong arm. That's nice.
Right. And so yeah, I just think he's not 280. And so because I put out a tweet and I do feel dumb because I probably shouldn't have said it the way I did, saying that like they may ask him to put on weight, again, they may want him to put on weight, but me, I don't know what he played at, and I have to go off of what he is. And if he's 280, they should not ask him to put on weight. He should not be any heavier than 280. I don't want him to do that. But hey, if he is a 260, 265 kind of guy, I would like to see him get back to that 280 because I do think he has the explosiveness. I think he could maybe keep some of that, but he needs to be more stout. I'm showing some of his highlights in the run game. These are all against tight ends for the most part. Or again, he athletic, he squeezes by a pulling guard, just with athleticism, not necessarily with strength. You watch him a lot. If he doesn't win that initial blocking engagement, a lot of times he does get held up. And so I do think there is something to that where I think he does need to be a little stronger. And again, if he is 280, then he just may not be a strong player. And that's maybe why he hasn't been, maybe a well sought after player in his NFL career so far. That's kind of where I'm sitting, because I just don't think he played like someone at 280. Still impressed, right? Still impressed, no doubt about it, and definitely someone I'm excited to see how they use. But again, I just, if he's going to be a starter, he either needs to get to 280 or he's not going to, he needs to admit that he's not 280. I guess I don't know what any final takes on that.
Well, even if he's not going to be a full-time starter, what you got is a guy, and they've already got a couple of guys like him, and Turk Wharton and Mike Dana. They got this defensive line. I think you've mentioned it before. They've got guys that can do a lot of different things. He can play outside, he can play inside. He's got experience doing everything. That versatility that they're built along the defensive line is actually impressive. They just have a bunch of guys with different skill sets that can be kind of hard to scheme for. If you have two guards, next season that are particularly struggling against quicker interior edge rushers, the Chiefs are going to put Chris Jones and him in a 3 technique or 4-eye at the same time all game long, and they're just going to let them go to work on the interior in there. If you get a tackle, who struggles with length and stuff like that, they're going to put him out there. Honestly, one of the things I think he could be like a Chris Jones insurance policy just in case he gets hurt or something. Also, it's possible maybe, Chris Jones played a lot of snaps. They're trying to keep him fresh for the rest of his career. I don't know. Do you think maybe we see him maybe take a few snaps from Chris Jones here and there just so they can try to lengthen his career if an extension is on the way for Chris Jones?
So, yeah, that's interesting, right? Because, if he is 280, if he does get, he wasn't playing 3 tech, straight up for the Niners, but maybe that kind of signals that he wasn't at 280. If he gets to 280, absolutely, I think, he's an interesting, a very intriguing 3 tech. You mentioned he kind of, had some of those Chris Jones moves with the hand swipes. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. He it's someone that, beats guards. And again, if you're going to line someone up, guys, versatility all over the place, if he can beat tackles off the edge, that's great. But you're going to find more times where you're going to be able to beat a guard, obviously, because guards, aren't used to that, obviously. So if you can get him playing those Chris Jones snaps, obviously, I do think last year Chris Jones played so many snaps, they can't do that again. And so you might be onto something, man, something that I didn't really, I didn't think too hard about, but maybe they do think of him more, could, obviously both, right? And that's the thing, but that is really interesting, kind of maybe a Chris Jones, because he does a lot of the same thing Chris Jones does, and he has some of the same, maybe, you could say weaknesses, although I think Chris Jones took a step last year that we were all, he became a all around elite player. But all that to say, I don't know. I like your thought on that, because I do think that might be a kind of a low key way to a sneaky way to use him, and could mean that they still have a need for a true, a stout, starting defensive end, because again, I have some concerns that he could be that guy. So any other thoughts?
Yeah, I mean they're going to be able to do a lot of different things. Again, they signed him, but it leaves a lot of flexibility open for what they can do in the draft. That's what both of these signings did. They filled 2 needs. And that's usually what free agency is for. like, you have to fill an important need and you're not willing to like risk a draft pick on it, you're probably just going to go out and spend the money. The Chiefs did that here for pass protection and for pass rush. But now, they've got into a chance, and I'm sure we'll get into more of the free agent stuff a little bit later, but they could be so much more flexible in the draft now. And that's kind of what I like. That's what I like about that whole thing. You fill your needs in free agency, and then you take the best player available in the draft and you figure it out from there. And then you just rely on your development and personnel schemes to kind of get the guys where they need to be.
100%. No, that is, I think Veach absolutely understands how to attack free agency. I think he's proven it, over and over by now. It really does seem like he, for the most part, has filled needs and then, set himself up for, not having to, necessarily have to draft any sort of position in the draft. So you tease it a little bit. I'm definitely going to have you on for the podcast that will be in the people's podcast feeds on Friday. You and Nate. We'll definitely have Nate back so we can talk through this free agency. Again, we kind of talk, we talk film, we talked X's and O's here, kind of how they fit, but there's a little more to dig into, right, about both of these things. I'm going to make my case for the right tackle, him staying at right tackle. But we're going to dissect that Omenahu point even a little more. So I'm excited, Kayla. Appreciate you joining me today. Appreciate everyone watching. Make sure you're following arrowheadpride.com during this free agency period. We got instant reaction, instant analysis. Our film guys are on it right away. You're looking at two of them, obviously. And we're right on it. We love this as much as you guys do. So keep watching. Appreciate you guys. Comment, let us know what you want to see. Check us out on Twitter. Our ats are right there. And we'll just catch you next time. Thank you very much.